Plastics have become an all-consuming part of our lives and our economy. It's something I definitely think about as the owner of Solpre. We make skincare, often for very active people, but plastic is something that we use all the time in our products. So I have to think about what is usable, what is not usable, what can be recycled in dealing with these things on a day-by-day basis. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of great plastic alternatives yet. Paper products are trying to catch up, but they're very expensive comparatively. So when you want to offer cheaper products and not have a super high price point, it's very tough to get paper packaging. But we want to talk about plastic packaging and what is actually recyclable. So starting in 1988, the Society of Plastics Industry made this system where you probably have seen before these nice little logos. They'll have a little recycling icon and a number in the middle of them on your plastic packaging. And this is a classification system to tell recyclers, or you as a consumer, what kind of packaging is actually recyclable and what kind of plastic is it made out of. Now, I won't go into detail on every single number, but I'm going to give you general guidelines on what you can expect. Essentially, the lower the number, near 1, the better it is for recycling and ease of recycling, and then the higher the number, the less recyclable it's going to be. There are notable exceptions, but that is a good guideline. 1s and 2s are the kinds of plastics which are used in many consumer products, much like the stuff that we make here at Solpre, and those are the ones that are going to be most often recycled in your curbside recycling program. 3s, although they should follow that nice guideline of the lower number, are PVC. We use PVC in all kinds of things, plumbing especially, and PVC is notoriously difficult to recycle. It cannot go in your curbside recycling. It's a very specialized item, and recyclers have a very tough time getting recycled value back out of it. 4s and 5s cannot go in your curbside recycling, but should be able to be recycled. 4s in particular are LDPE, or low density polyethylene. This is what, like, your shopping bags at the grocery store are going to be made out of, or at Walmart or Target. They're going to be made out of low density polyethylene. Now, you can't put that in your curbside recycling, but most stores like Walmart, Target, your local grocery store, all have some kind of collection method at the front of the store. Sometimes in the entryway, depends on how your store is set up. Now, it's obviously nice to bring reusable bags and not use the plastic at all. Remember, reduce, reuse, recycle in that order. We want to reduce how many plastic bags you're using, reuse them if we can, and then recycle them last. So if you're using a reusable bag, then you don't have to worry so much about, hey, I got this plastic bag and now I have to recycle it. But I'll be the first to admit, I have not been the absolute perfect person to bring recyclable bags or reusable bags with me every single time. I forget them sometimes, or sometimes you have them and then the bagger doesn't see them and they use the plastic bag and they're going to throw that bag away no matter what. So I understand that, yeah, it happens. We do use plastic bags. We try to reduce them as much as we can, but it happens that they get used. So make sure you collect all those. Make a bag of bags. I know you've got one. You've got one right next to your junk drawer. Bring your bag of bags back to the store and make sure those get recycled on your trips. Now, 5s are a little bit harder kind of plastic, but they can be recycled. This is what, like, your tubs, your Rubbermaid tubs are going to be made out of. This kind of plastic most often. It isn't going to be available in your curbside recycling, most likely. Obviously, check with your local municipality. What do they say you can pick up? They'll tell you the numbers that they can pick up. But when it can be recycled, this is the thing that turns into fibers, and then some cool manufacturers are able to take those fibers and make them into new products. I know when I was working at New Balance, they had shoes that were made from this recycled plastic, and that there are other manufacturers that make shirts out of it. There's a whole industry trying to develop garments made out of this plastic and figuring a way that we can reuse this plastic instead of just throwing it away and ending up in the ocean for animals to eat, and it causes all kinds of problems. Now, 6 and 7, pretty much not recyclable. 6 is things like styrofoam containers or Packing peanuts, the bane of my existence as a shipper. I absolutely hate packing peanuts. I feel like there's no use for them at all, ever. But sometimes they do get used, and there is a recyclable version. So if you're getting packing peanuts from somebody, please see if they'll try to use the recyclable version, the biodegradable version of the packing peanuts. They're a little bit more expensive, but only marginally. So it's something to consider. As a shipper, if you ship things, please don't use packing peanuts. If you do, please use a biodegradable version. 7 is kind of a catch-all where it's just all kinds of junk that isn't able to be used or recycled at all. There's many different kinds of plastics that goes into 7s. So if you see that on a product packaging, try to avoid it if you can. One super important thing to remember, I learned while speaking with Maddie Steer on the Smart Athlete podcast. Now, if you don't know anything about Maddie or the Smart Athlete podcast, I do another show where I interview smart athletes. Maddie in particular is a PhD researcher looking at the effects of microplastics on our oceans. Now, she told me in our conversation that there is one major thing that makes any of these plastics that are normally recyclable completely null, and their value as a recyclable essentially goes away entirely, and that is colorant. Now, if you've been on this channel at all, you know I also talk about running. So if you're a runner, you've probably seen this blue tube at one point or another. Very popular company. Lots and lots of these blue tubes exist on this planet, and they pretty much have no recycling value. As a marketer, I totally appreciate the blue tube. It's very eye-catching. I love it. But it can't really be recycled, which is why part of the thing that we do here at Solpre is make sure we use plastic made of white or clear. And this is based on Maddie's suggestion. This isn't something we did because of her suggestion, but it is fall in line with her suggestion. Use white and clear packaging. That is the kind of plastic that can be recycled, whereas things with colorant cannot be recycled. So if you can avoid products that look like this or have any other kind of dye in them that cannot really be recycled, recyclers don't like them, they cannot be used, they have very little value, and you can do in favor of other things that have a similar price point and effectiveness, then go for the white or color-free packaging, the clear packaging. That's the kind of plastic that's going to have the most value. If you want to check out our products, obviously you can go to solpre.com/shop, or if you want to check out that conversation with Maddie, I'm going to link you right into the middle of our conversation. She also talks about gig rowing, which is her sport, and then we get into plastics and the plastics industry right in the middle of our hour-long conversation. So I will link you to the middle part of our conversation where we start talking about plastics. So thank you for recycling. Thank you for staying with me. Check out that video with Maddie to learn more about what's happening with microplastics in our oceans.